Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I am Professor Dr. Beatriz Lúcia Salvador Bisotto from Brazil, and it's a great pleasure to be here today in the International Conference on Innovation in Multidisciplinary Areas in the field of commerce, management, science, engineering, medical, education, information, technology, humanities, law, and agriculture. I would like to thank especially Dr. Ajav Jain for the kind invitation to be here today sharing knowledge with you. My topic today will be entrepreneurship post-COVID-19. So the signals of business changes. The COVID-19 pandemic has come as a surprise to everyone, and this is nothing new. At no time in our history has an event of this magnitude and has been witnesses within the circumstances of globalization and economic development that we find ourselves in, which has impacted society as a whole and brought many challenges to the world production chain. Businesses were forced to interrupt their activities, and measures to restrict and contain the disease were imposed, which made it difficult to sell products and services, causing many businesses to close permanently and forcing entrepreneurs to reinvent themselves in order to survive, especially those who own micro and small enterprises. Entrepreneurship can be highlighted as an important factor for the economic development of a country. Entrepreneurship is very present in our society, since even those who do not work in the field are impacted by hardworking people who innovate and take their ideas to a new level. The economic crisis from recession to COVID-19, the instability and economic decline occurred, in large part due to issues intrinsic to the global economy. Several countries have enacted containment measures that severely limit people's ability to leave their homes. With the lockdown and social distancing measures, consumers were restricted from having options to buy. Just as they were restricted from mobility, new ways of acting were necessary, but not everyone was able to adapt to the new reality. In addition, the population also saw its purchasing power diminishing, causing a psychological effect on the possibility of consumption by people who lost income and jobs, with a forecast for recession and a generalized increase in unemployment. This time, the alternative for survival was to undertake new businesses, for the rules are rigid and sometimes slow. Using the creativity, forcing the development of digital technologies, the means of communication and sales, and new strategies to maintain competitiveness in the market. As an example, one can mention the increase in online shopping, use of electronic equipment, social media, meetings, and virtual classes, among others. Here we have some of the main information about small businesses in the US and abroad. Inflation and currency exchange rates make the cost of generating a startup business abroad different than in the United States. As you can see here, in the United States, we have $325. In Brazil, 704. In Saudi Arabia is even more expensive. In India, 2049. So this is just a view for you. And starting a business by country, we have the time, the number of days that this can take. In the phase of doing the business, we have New Zealand in the first, Singapore in the second, Saudi Arabia with 5 days. In the United States, this can take 6 days. And here, beside that, you can see the phases of doing this business. In Singapore, 1, New Zealand, 2, in Ireland 7, for example, in China 89, and goes on. Here we have the success rate of small businesses in the US. 31% survive at least 7 years. 44% of new firms survive 4 years. 49% chance of failing within 5 years. 69% of the businesses survive at least 2 years. Here we have a closer look at small businesses around the globe. For example, in Canada, 5 million number of individuals employed by small businesses. Business closures, for example, here we have 210,000 people, businesses that closes. We have new businesses. We have examples of New Zealand here. We have United States. China, the percentage of the country gross domestic product contributed by small to medium enterprises. And in France, the number of small business that those within 1 year that closed. So some examples of businesses here around the world. Here we have the profile of the entrepreneur in Brazil. This is like this in Portuguese, but I will explain you. The profile of the entrepreneur in Brazil are 48% men, 52% are women. The age group is between 18 to 24 years old. 17.1% age group between 25 and 34 years old. 33.1% are 35 years or 44 years old. 26% are 45 years or 54 years old, and 17.1 are 55 to 64 years old. No formal education are 2.2%. The ones who complete the basic education are 38%. The ones who complete the high school are 46%. The ones who complete the graduation are 12.30%. The graduated ones are 1.7%. As for family income, 62% receive less than the equivalent of $661. And they receive an additional of 1,985 per month. People find out it's very difficult to speed up new ventures because there are many procedures to comply with. And let's see some examples. Now we're going to see the ranking of ease to open a business around the world. You can see that Singapore is the easiest place. Then we have New Zealand, United States, United Kingdom, Ireland, Saudi Arabia, China. And you can see here how difficult it is to open a business in India, that is 133rd. How many years do new companies usually last in the United States? 9% of businesses last at least 2 years. 44% of new businesses survive 4 years. 31% survive for at least 7 years. The chance of going bankrupt in 5 years is 49%. A trend towards the emergence of new behaviors can be seen in order to adapt the needs of new consumers to the limitation imposed by the pandemic, although some of these trends are perceived. Resilience is a hallmark of entrepreneurs in times of a pandemic. A trend towards the emergence of new behaviors can be seen in order to adapt the needs of consumers to the limitation imposed by the pandemic, although some of these trends are perceived. The functioning and general rules of society collapsed. Due to the focus on production goods and technology exercised excessively in recent decades, we forgot to pay attention to the most fundamental human needs to live with quality of life. Society literally fell ill, reaching records of illnesses caused by stress, fatigue, and isolation in proportions never seen before in history. Now begins a reorganization, prioritizing mainly the health and well-being of population. Therefore, in this macro trend, we will see some of the most expressive aspirations. Look at here in the next slide, we have the micro trends. The first one from down to the top is re-emotional education. After so many decades fascinated in production, focusing our learning and developing our intelligences for the industry, we discovered that we know everything about the world and nothing about ourselves. The second one is fear of missing out. A kind of phobia, fear of missing out on world events when going offline, which lets people to stay connected even when they don't need to. Then we have pleasure for simplicity. In this trend that reveals one of the many social reactions, such as places without internet connection, rustic, handcrafted products. All right, then we go to what really matters. What is sought here is an emerging rescue of what they call human warmth. This trend includes, for example, giving people experiences instead of presents, non-egoistic individualism, focus on self-care and social responsibility, always prioritizing no harm to others and the environment. We might even call this new mindset self-empowerment. Plural identities. This is the time of diversity, the consolidation of families, urban tribes, and several other groups that are formed regardless of cultural identity differences, is increasingly visible. New women, new men, from commercials to fiction, we have recently experienced a major remodeling of women's representation in the media, which detaches them from the usual fragile and helpless roles and places them in positions of more independence and autonomy. Thus, the tendency is for something similar to happen to men. Shared economy, communitarian capitalism. Here is born a way of consumption where owning loses importance and gives way to experience. Green consumption, brands that are, in essence, the result of this sustainable mindset, from vegan products to reuse of materials or circular economy. Macro trends, the end of smartphones, tame robots, the arrival of the 5G internet, video, the new communication, hybrid realities, blockchain and invisible currencies, smart mobility, digital goods, machine learning, learning in practice, significant experiences. These are just a few examples. With digital inclusion in the market in people's daily lives, in addition to increasingly accelerated technological advances, the virtual world and the real world have established themselves as codependent. Thinking about communication, information, and even marketing is no longer possible without considering the internet and connectivity. It is undeniable that we recognize that the era of integration of realities, that is, the integration of the digital world and the physical world, and in this new structure, we must prepare for a total transformation of the market and society. It is also worth noting that even technologies and innovations that seem more distant at first glance may not sound as applicable to small businesses, deserve monitoring. It is important that from large to small businesses, the applications or consumer platforms available offer fluid experiences through interfaces that adapt to new needs, being agile, intelligent, and simplified as possible. Changes. Six signs stand out as essential for organizations to have a successful future. Recent research reveals the following. Learn from the future. Instead of looking to the past for insights, letting organizations use data analytics and artificial intelligence to make decisions and define strategies that anticipate the future. With the global crisis, new possibilities arise. Organizations can reinvent their future by embracing positive change. The number of job openings looking for workers with predictive skills grew twice as fast as jobs in general. 77% of the executives surveyed have increased their internal and external use of real-time data in the last 12 months. Migrate to the ends. Leaders are responding to change and challenges by shifting decision-making authority to people at the ends, relying on highly connected teams to act with speed and agility. 88% of the respondents said markets will become more segmented. 71% of respondents said they have already decentralized decision-making or are planning to do so. Now, sustainable purpose. Responding to the demand that stakeholders be considered and served more broadly, organizations are building sustainability into the fabric of their operations and making social responsibility sustainable. 2.6 times as many companies with consistently high environmental, social, and governance performance ratings outperform underperformers in terms of the total shareholder return. 43% of 521 of the world's largest companies are currently failing to deliver multidimensional value comparing to their intentions. Borderless supply. To meet growing customer needs for a faster, more flexible, cost-effective, and sustainable supply process, companies are restructuring their supply chains and moving production to the point of demand. 95% of respondents said they are testing or scaling approaches that will help decouple supply from ground, infrastructure, or bring production closer to the point of demand. 9.2% estimated commercial growth for 2030 with the use of technologies that overcome distance restrictions. Real virtualities. Enhancing our physical worlds and defining our sense of place, innovative organizations create new ways for people to work, consume, and socialize. 277% growth in the proportion of published patents that mention augmented or virtual reality in the last 5 years. 88% of respondents said they are investing in technologies that enable the creation of virtual environments. The scientific method. As scientific disruption enables the creation of better, cheaper, and sustainable products and services, Latin companies will become scientific companies and apply science to address the world's fundamental challenges. 85% of respondents agreed that increasing scientific capacity is critical to the future competitiveness of organizations. $276 additional economic growth that could be achieved through accelerated R&D testing and development by 2030. Survey data is based on responses from 2,650 senior executives from 80 countries and 20 industries, and this data were collected in 2021. Summing up, the advancement of AE is natural and is a part of historic revolution that we can no longer stop. Faced with this scenario, we do not need to be afraid of being replaced by machines, but rather take advantage of what we have created to improve our work. Thank you very much. It was a great opportunity to be here today discussing this topic. Best wishes for everybody. Thank you.